The following is an exclusive presentation of the Yes Network.
On this edition of What's It Worth, does a game-used bat signed by legendary slugger Jimmy Fox in the 1940 Red Sox hit it out of the park? When the Giants won the pennant on Bobby Thompson's home run against the Dodgers in 1951, the World Series program needed a last-minute change. We'll put a value on both versions. We'll hear how this guest's mother didn't even realize the autograph she was getting on this team-signed ball. When Yogi Berra hit his last career round-tripper in 1963, this man caught it. Did Yogi's final blast turn out to be a financial home run? Some collectors reach a point when they know that their hobby has turned into a passion. We'll hear the story of one man's turning point and his love of collecting. It's all next on Yes Network's What's It Worth? Welcome to What's It Worth, the Yes Network Sports Memorabilia Show. I'm Andrea Joyce. What's It Worth is the show where people get to share their sports collectibles with us. They let us know why the items mean so much to them, and we let them know just how much the memorabilia is worth. And here to place a value on these items is John Brigandi from Brigandi Coin Company, a memorabilia dealer in New York City. Welcome.
Great to be back.
All right, let's get started,
Sure.
shall we? Okay, our first guest, Todd Gallen from Danbury, Connecticut, has brought in a game-used autographed bat from one of the game's great sluggers, Jimmy Fox. And Todd, why don't you tell us the story of how you got this bat?
My grandfather, Paul Gallen, opened a bar in the 30s after the Depression in my hometown. He co-founded the Little League. He became friends with Mr. Grove. And through Mr. Grove, he acquired a lot of baseball memorabilia, went to quite a few sporting events through the years, would drive to all kinds of World Series.
This is a picture of your grandfather in the bar, right?
Yes, that's in the bar. Some people say it was probably the original sports bistro in that area. And
Do you know what the name of it was?
It was called the Galen Bar, and the reason it didn't have two L's like our last name was because his father said, don't open a bar with my name, and neon costs less by the letter. So that's why it came about that way.
So he became friends
with Mr. Grove, and through Mr. Grove, he met a lot of other people.
This is Lefty Grove you're talking
right.
about?
My grandfather's originally, this is him, he was played semi-pro baseball. He grew up in Philadelphia. He told me that he used to tell the nuns to quit rapping his knuckles because he was going to be a ball player someday, and they'd be sorry. So he was a huge sports fan, and then my family relocated to Cumberland, Maryland, and finally, after he figured out what he wanted to do with his life, as he told me, he opened a bar, and he just started acquiring memorabilia and started putting it behind the bar, and as he acquired more and met more people, they'd give him stuff to put in the bar.
So what's the bat? Who do you have on the bat here?
This is the Jimmy Fox bat from 1940. Ted Williams is on it, Lefty Grove. Mr. Fox himself, who's also from Maryland. He's from Sudlersville, Maryland.
So this is the 1940?
Jimmy Fox bat.
Okay.
And I believe he hit 38 home runs that year for the American, for the
Boston Red Sox,
Boston Red
1940. Sox. I've never seen a bat that's been cut like that, and I like the way the signatures are on there because it's a nice flat surface, and it's kind of a cool way to display it, but I know you're going to tell me it's a game-used bat, but he didn't use it when it looked like that, right?
Well, let's just back up. Lefty Grove was one of the great pitchers of the 20th century. He won 300 games, exactly 300 games, and was considered the preeminent lefty of his day. As for the bat, it was a common practice in the 30s and 40s, and 50s for that matter, to take a bat and to cut it vertically in half and have the players on the team sign the bat, which they did here. The problem with this bat, slight problem, is that they use the hitting side of the bat so that you don't really know that it's Jimmy Fox's bat. Of course, there's no doubt that it was because of the story, but nevertheless, we don't see the Jimmy Fox signature emblazoned on the other side of the bat. So what we have, really, what we're left with is a signed team bat from the 1940 Red Sox, signed, of course, by Ted Williams, Lefty Grove, Dom DiMaggio, which did not mention, and a fellow by the name of Mo Berg, who's well known for also being a spy for the United States government back in World War II. But in any case, the signatures aren't bad for a 1940 bat.
And it's not bad that they cut it because that's what they did. It's not like
that's what they did.
Yeah, or someone in the family did.
However, if it stayed intact as a Jimmy Fox bat, it would be worth upwards of $20,000. The way it is now, signed by the 1940 Red Sox, is worth someplace between $2,000 and $2,500.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for bringing it in.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Joining us now are Cliff and Louis Von Gray from Basking Ridge, New Jersey, and you guys have brought in something that I think any New York Giants football fan would find fascinating. Why don't you tell us about this?
It's actually the original program from the first Giant home game at the Polo Grounds.
It says October 18th, 1925. And how did you guys come across this?
That was given to me by a friend of mine.
And you got this, and it's been passed on to you. It looks like it's in great shape.
It's in great shape, and that's part of the problem. Unfortunately, this is a reproduction of the original program made in the 1920s. And you can tell that by, well, a number of reasons, but it was made, actually it was made in the 1970s. It was made in 1975 for the 50th anniversary of the New York Giants. The paper is new. You can see over here it's how shiny and glossy the paper is. And
now,
actually,
was the paper of an original program then not like that? Was it not shiny or?
Well, they were a little glossy, but it would have aged significantly more over a period of what?
Regardless of how you stored it.
Yeah. And you can also notice that this photo here on the front page is they took a photo of a photo, and the original photo would have had some wear or a crease in here, if you notice. So this is a reproduction, actually. You can actually see this photograph is a reproduction of the original front page of the 1925 program. So
this is not uncommon. I mean, we've had this happen before on this show where where you have something and there's no reason to believe that it isn't. You're pointing to a crease in the photograph, and the crease in the original program
would have been
not
worn.
have been.
No, it would have been worn and would have had wear and a crease in the original program. See, so what they did was they took a photo of the original worn or folded program from 1925. Now, the original program from 1925 is worth about $2,000, maybe even more.
But this is not anybody, again, some of the things we see, people are trying to make a buck here and there, but this is something where, this was reproduced and it was not,
that's right.
It gets passed on and nobody knows.
That's correct. That's correct. And then, obviously, you didn't know that, so sometimes we give you good news here, and sometimes, unfortunately, we give you bad news.
Well, it's still a really nice-looking reproduction, though, anyway, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, guys,
Great.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
in.
you.
When What's It Worth continues, we'll see how Bobby Thompson's famous home run caused a last-minute change at the printing press. And we'll hear the story behind this historic home run ball. When Bobby Thompson hit his shot heard round the world to beat the Dodgers in 1951, it was heartbreak to Brooklyn Dodgers fans and ecstasy to New York Giants fans. It also created some last-minute changes at the printing press. But in the tradition of Dewey beats Truman, our next guest, Nick Lomangino of New York City, has a World Series program that features the loser of that Dodgers-Giants series. Welcome, and thanks for bringing this stuff in. This is so much fun. We were just talking about this. This is called a phantom program, right? All right, so here we have the home run, and then take us through what you have here and how you got this.
My grandfather was the foreman of the Blanchard printing press in 1951, and they had anticipated, of course, the Dodgers winning that playoff series. Actually, the Giants won 37 of the last 44 games, but at the end, they really felt the Giants weren't going to win, and the Dodgers would pull it out. They printed the program Yankee Dodger, and when Bobby Thompson hit the home run, actually in the ninth inning it was 4-1, and then he hit the home run. They had to destroy them, and they were sent to the incinerator. So to my knowledge, I mean, I've been researching this for 17 years. There are other copies out there, but I've never seen them.
So this is what they have to do when something like that happens. They have to throw them in the fire. They have to get rid of them.
Correct.
So your grandpa...
I believe he removed one or
couple.
two. I believe there was another one that he might have taken that was destroyed, and his home had burned down about 20 years ago. And I believe it was lost in that fire. But he gave this to me about 17 years ago. And
it's kind of a fun thing to have, or was he thinking that this was worth something? Or?
He wasn't sure. And actually, he gave this to me with a slew of other programs, boxing and Yankee World Series programs.
And obviously, they had to make that next program, the Giants-Yankees program, so quickly they didn't even have a chance to put the stadium on there. And
Polo Grounds isn't even featured on there.
You've seen these phantom programs before. They're kind of fun, aren't they?
Yeah, but only occasionally. This is one of the rarer, the scarcest of the phantom programs. There are a few others. What makes this extraordinary, though, is the condition.
Thank you.
It is mint condition.
Doesn't look faded, doesn't...
Oh, no, and the corners are all sharp. It's just and the spine is tight. It's a beautiful example. In fact, the official one, the Giants one, is equally mint, and they bring lots of money in auction or otherwise when they're in that type of condition.
And are these more valuable as a set because of the circumstance or individually? We put a price on these.
Well, let's go through it real fast. The regular program, it generally sells for $200 to $300, but because it's in such mint, perfect condition, I would think it would be double that.
Okay.
Probably be a good $500, I would
Fabulous.
think. I'll cut to the chase. I'll go right to the expensive one. The Phantom. The Phantoms generally sell between $1,500 and $2,000, as much as $2,000. But because of the extraordinary condition of this one, the mint condition, I would say at least $3,000 in an auction. Probably, well, we'll say $2,500 probably in an auction, but as much as $3,000, maybe even $35,000 if two bidders get carried away. Of course, the photo that next to it is a standard photograph of the time where Thompson and Branca both signed it. They're generally available in the marketplace between $50 and $100.
But the programs,
Program
though,
is
those
wonderful, and if you are a program collector, you will need his copy, his example, because I cannot imagine a better example extant.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
you
you
did a
very
good
much.
job
Thank you.
preserving that.
Thank
And
you.
you're not selling it, are you?
Absolutely not.
Too many
There's
fond memories of your grandpa?
Very fond, and there's too much sentimentality here. And it has a great history and a great story. And it's a pleasure to be here, so I thank you both very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
When What's It Worth continues, we'll learn the story behind this baseball signed by Hank Aaron and the rest of the Milwaukee Braves. And we'll put a value on Yogi Berra's last home run ball. We are joined now by Joy Conlon of Somers, New York. And Joy, why don't you tell us the story about a plane trip that your mother took and actually turned into this fabulous autographed baseball?
Indeed. Well, my mom was on a plane going to visit my father in the Midwest. They're both British patriots who had emigrated in 1952 to the United States. She was pregnant with me at the time, and she was on a plane with these guys, and she didn't know what baseball was. She said something like, "Is that the sport that's like cricket?" And
They were just a bunch of guys,
They were just
right?
a bunch of guys, and they sort of like adopted her for the plane ride. And one of the guys took the ball around and had everybody sign it. And we really didn't know what it was or who that person was until sometime in the early 70s when we're watching TV and there was a bit on the news, and she said, "That's the lovely gentleman that gave me the ball."
And who was it?
Hank Aaron.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he was just one of the
That's how we
guys. He was
found
one
out.
of the guys on the plane.
Yeah, one of the nice guys.
So you think that this, then, your mom was pregnant with you in 58, so you think
Right.
this is
I think it's a
1958 baseball.
58.
And who else is on that ball?
I think there are 4 Hall of Famers. There's Eddie Matthews, Red Schoendienst, Warren Spahn, and of course Hank Aaron.
Nice.
Nice and wonderful condition, almost a mint condition. Kept beautifully. I guess you didn't really have it showing out in sun.
No, it was sort of in a cardboard box
Yeah.
for a few years
Held
until
up nicely.
Yeah, till I met my now husband, and he thought it might be worth something.
See how nice the condition is?
Do you have any idea of what it might be worth?
Oh, I have no idea at all. Figured a couple of $100 probably.
Well, it's worth more than a couple of $100.
Really?
Yeah, 1958, just to refresh everyone's recollection, they went to the World Series, but they lost to the Yankees in 7 games. In 57, though, they beat the Yankees in 7 games. Had it been a 57, it would be worth double the price than the 58. As a 58, in the condition that it is in, and just about every player is on there, and certainly all the important players, including Lou Burdett, it is worth about $750 to $1,200.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
There
Thank
you go. And your first gift, right, as a little
As my
bit,
first
because
gift,
you weren't even born yet.
premature gift. It was a very nice gift, I guess.
Nice to know they were so nice to your mom.
It really is.
All right.
That's the special part.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
Needless to say, Yogi Berra had a legendary career as a New York Yankee, 3 MVP awards, 15 All-Star games, and he appeared in an amazing 14 World Series, winning 10 of them. On September 21st, 1963, Yogi Berra hit his 358th and last home run as a New York Yankee, which brings us to our next guest, Larry Leedy of Staten Island, New York. And don't tell me this is the ball. This is the last home run ball. Come on.
That's the ball.
Wow. How did you get that?
Well, years ago, the New York City public school system used to let the education department and baseball teams play there. And PS45 I played for. We had won a championship game, and they let us play 3 innings before the Yankee game, the last game of the season. And
so that was a big day to begin with.
Right.
For you.
Right. And I had played a 3-inning game, and after the game, they let us go out into the stands with our uniforms on. And I was walking down to right field. Yogi got up, and he hits his line drive, and I see it coming. And as I'm walking, I knew I had a shot to get this ball, and one hop just came right up to me. I had a feeling I was going to, it was coming right at me like it was made for me.
It was either going to knock out your teeth or it was going to...
As soon as it came, I knew I had a shot to catch this ball. I caught out one bounce, and I was in my uniform, but a couple of people were on top of me, and I was getting hit on the head by an old, heavy-set woman. She was yeah, she was banging me over there.
You were 12?
12 years old.
That's not right.
Well, they brought me up to the, Dick Young called me up. Of course, it was a monumental home run. It was most home runs by a catch of lifetime at the time. And he said, son, you just caught a baseball history, a piece of history. And I've had it ever since. I've been in contact with Cooperstown and Yogi, and although undecided what I want to do with it. I'm not a collector. I just had it for 40 years.
Right. And what are these letters that you have here?
Well, this is the letter from Yogi, verifying that I caught his last home run ball. He wrote me a letter back. Then there's the article down here about Dick Young. I think 8 years later, I played in an all-star baseball game in college. I was a ball player, and I singled into a double play. And he says, Leedy, Larry Leedy. I know that kid caught Yogi Berra's last home run. I know that name, because it's an odd name. So they brought me upstairs again, and they wrote an article the next day in the news about it. So.
Wow. Now, do you think when you were 12 and you got that, even though he told you that you caught a piece of baseball history, do you think it meant much to you then, or does it mean more to you now?
That's a good question. Now.
Yeah. Did he sign it when did he sign it?
Yeah, he signed it 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But we have mutual people that know Yogi. I know Frank Fernandez played for the Yankees. I played baseball with his brother. He had told Yogi, some kid from Staten Island got your ball. Yogi, yeah, I know.
Well, that's fun. I mean, there are signed baseballs and there are signed baseballs, but the one that someone actually hit, the last home run, I mean, that's really...
This is also his last RBI, last run
Trying to get the price up here.
John knows.
First and foremost, it is what it is, meaning that it is well documented and the provenance is impeccable. So it is truly the home run ball. At one time, it stood for as the record-breaking ball. All that being said, it's still one of the most important home run balls, I guess, in Yankee law.
Yeah.
And you can't take that away from it. So how do we put a price on it? Well, we know it's worth at least $2,000 or $3,000. The question is, if you had put it to auction, would it bring significantly more? And there are a lot of Yankee collectors out there. So I would say between $2,000 and $5,000, and that's about as close as I can get, because you need, after this, you need a couple more bidders to be knocking heads against one another. But it's a great piece.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for bringing it in.
Appreciate it.
When What's It Worth continues, for every serious collector, there comes a time when a hobby turns into a passion. We'll hear one man's story. For some, there comes a point when collecting sports memorabilia goes from being a diversion to a passion, when collecting a few nice items turns into a full-fledged collection. And to discuss why he collects and his love for the New York Yankees, I'm joined by Alan Katzman, a sports memorabilia collector from New Jersey. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Why do you think it is? What do you think it is about collecting that turns people and really makes it a passion? You know, what's the hook?
Well, I think the hook here is when you buy items and objects that reflect or represent things you love, and you put it up on your wall, and it's a remembrance of an event or a player. It just, you know...
It has nothing to do with money or investment. It's really about a memory or about someone you admire or something like that.
Absolutely. My start was not to find a place to invest or grow a collection in value. It was to buy pieces and artifacts of games, of players, that just add to my living situation, a place I can look at it and just appreciate what I have.
So how and when did you get started then?
I got started in a very awkward way. Way back, my father took me to the last Yankee game that was played in the old Yankee Stadium before it was closed for renovation. And I was there, and towards the end of the game, there were people with power tools just picking up chairs and seats.
Anything they could get.
Anything they could get their hands on. I didn't come so well prepared, so I basically jumped up and down on my seat for about 20 times.
And you have a piece of a chair that you brought with you from that day?
I have this, which is the seat portion from the old Yankee Stadium, and this actually started my collection.
And how old were you then?
I was 13, back in September 30th, 1973.
So it all started there, but when did you know that you had gone past that point of no return, when you had gone from casually collecting to really being a serious collector? When it wasn't a hobby anymore?
It wasn't a hobby. I think in 1996, after the Yankees won the World Series, and I was able to appreciate it and enjoy it and pay for some items, I started my collection in earnest.
And what about your love of the Yankees? When did that start? I mean, do you even remember, or is it always...
No, one of my first memories is going to Yankee Stadium with my brother and my father, and that was back in 1966. And I remember walking into the stadium, seeing the stadium, the facade, the white facade against the black sky, and it's a vision I have, and I always had a love for the Yankees ever since that time.
Alan, tell us about some of the other items that you brought with you from your Yankee collection.
Oh, I'd be happy to. This is a photo of Mickey Mantle sitting on the top of the Yankee Stadium dugout, outlined by the facade at the old stadium, and is signed by Mickey Mantle, and that's a piece that goes back to the 1950s with the signature.
It has a great look to it. And the bat?
The bat is a game-used bat from Paul O'Neill, and it's signed by Paul O'Neill. And I think he was the heart and soul of the team from the 90s that won the championships.
My son's favorite player of all time. Is there one item, I mean, this is kind of a tough question, is there one item, one Yankee item that you would love to have in your collection that you don't have?
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest Yankees and heart and soul of the team is Lou Gehrig. And I have Babe Ruth's signature, DiMaggio, Mantle's, and the current day players, but I really would love a piece, somehow uniform, bat, ball, photo.
You're young, you got a lot of time to add that to your collection. All right. Thanks so much for bringing this stuff in and for taking the time to be with us.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. And that'll do it for this edition of What's It Worth. And remember, if you'd like to have your sports memorabilia appraised on our show, please email us and tell us about your collectibles and any interesting stories associated with them. The address is whatsitworth@yesnetwork.com. Thanks for joining us. For John Brigandi, I'm Andrea Joyce. We'll see you next time on What's It Worth.